9:29 is the time right now. Calling all true crime fans, a new original podcast from award-winning journalist Soledad O'Brien debuts today on Luminary. It's called Murder on the Towpath with Soledad O'Brien. Now, it explores the 1964 Georgetown murder of Mary Pinchot Meyer and the corresponding arrest and trial of Ray Crump Jr. The African-American man was arrested, indicted, and served 9 months in prison before being acquitted. This morning, Soledad O'Brien joins us to talk all about this unsolved case and her new podcast. Good morning to you. Good to see you.
Hey, likewise. Great to see you. Yeah, this case is crazy. And as much as I think true crime cases are often really, really riveting and interesting, this has so many twists and turns outside of the case. Mary Pinchot Meyer, the victim in this case, Ray Crump, the suspect who they rounded up within 45 minutes, Dovey Roundtree, the civil rights lawyer, black woman who kind of fought her way to make it through law school, who agrees to represent him. But I'm not mentioning the conspiracy theories, the CIA, a missing diary, and also an affair with JFK.
Wow. Oh, yeah, you dropped a lot. I mean, that's a lot to drop in just a little bit of time. CIA, JFK, missing diary. That's a whole lot to get into. But I want to ask you.
It's really what makes it, I think, it's one of the reasons I love podcasts.
Yeah.
Because I think as a platform and as a format, right, you get to kind of go into all these twists and turns that I think if you were just normally telling the story, you wouldn't have a chance to.
Right. Now, I want to ask you this question. How did you decide, or how did you find this particular case to put into podcast form? Was there something about it? Were there a bunch of cases that you looked at and this one jumped out at you? And if you did, if this is the case, why?
Have you done a podcast yet? Have you
Yes.
hosted a podcast yet?
Yes, but mine are strictly just conversational and nothing hard-hitting like this.
No, I haven't. So I was kind of waiting to see like what I'd want to do in a podcast. And then the producers at Film Nation reached out and told me just sort of very briefly about the story of Dovey Roundtree and Mary Myers. And so I looked it up, and the first thing you really see is just all the conspiracies around what happened to Mary Myers on the Georgetown towpath. I mean, it's really kind of a crazy story. But as we started digging into it, what I thought was really interesting was the history, the background of Dovey Roundtree as a black woman whose family was terrorized by the KKK, really had so many opportunities and breaks in order to become a lawyer, and dedicated her life to really helping people who needed a good civil rights lawyer. And Mary Meyer herself, who was wealthy, upper crust, and even then, because it's 1964, society kind of weighed in on what they sort of thought were the opportunities and what both of these women should be doing, and both of them pushed back against it. I always thought that if they knew each other, they would have respected each other and thought that the other one was a very tough woman. They didn't. They never interacted, except, of course, it kind of intersected at Mary Myers' death when she was killed. So I thought that's what was most interesting. And then it turned out, of course, as you dig into the podcast, that Mary Myers has a relationship with JFK. We've got a steamy love letter that's crazy. And also this idea of like, well, what actually happened both in the trial, which is riveting, because Dovey Roundtree, the civil rights lawyer, is completely underestimated, and also what happened afterward.
It's an amazing story, just from based on what you're saying right here. Now, in the last couple of seconds we got here, when you look back at what happened back then, was it hard to go back and dig? I know you're award-winning journalist, but was it hard to do this for the podcast, to go back and dig all this up and find these people and these interviews and everything like that?
No, it was actually really interesting. I think there were a lot of people who'd written memoirs, and I think when Luminary decided to do this podcast, they knew that we would have to do a really good 360 view. So no, it wasn't hard. It was, I think people really wanted to weigh in. Some family members were not interested in talking to us, but many, many others, and historians too, all wanted to sort of help us build this portrait.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time this morning. The one and only Soledad O'Brien. Murder on the Towpath is the podcast. It debuts May 25th, which is today. So thank you very much for your time. I look forward to learning more about this. I love listening to history and finding out about, especially when it comes to something like this, getting the wrong guy. And you threw in the CIA and the missing diaries and JFK. I'm all in. So Soledad, thank you very much for your time this morning. All right. Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right. Allison Seymour, over to you.